Welcome, everybody, to In the Buff. Today, we've got your host, Chris. We've got Cody, John, Scott, and Kyle. Welcome, everybody, to the
September
Badassness Tournament.
I thought he was about to just go into a loop.
You too.
Guys, what makes a villain?
Heart.
Champion's heart. Yeah.
They have to be hot.
Oh, attractiveness.
It's about drive. It's about power. We say hungry, we devour.
Style.
All villains
Style,
are hot.
okay.
The more ability a woman has to kill me, the hotter they are.
I'm not going to totally disagree. What's our first matchup?
Well, before we get to the matchups, maybe we should give a little bit of context for the contest.
Right.
Similar to the March Madness brackets, we have, well, John has done all the legwork. He has come up with some rankings of the best villains from these different categories.
When we say the best villains, I have searched high and low through the internet. I have gone through various lists.
You've gotten dirty.
And I looked at who rated these villains the highest. Some of them said why, some of them didn't. And I took the most popular from each of these lists. So through a law of averages, these were the greatest villains that showed up.
And we will be working through the brackets, deciding which villain will win in each matchup, though not just any arbitrary criteria. I guess they are arbitrary.
Not just any old dudes.
We're not just going to say who would win in a fight. So for the first round, what is our criteria?
Well, to me, the most important thing a villain can have is their motivation.
Interesting. Interesting. You told me you changed these, but I guess not.
Look how upset he is.
We can back up. I mean, honestly, what do you guys think is the most important things for a villain? Motivation is an important thing to me, but we did that last year with the main characters.
I'm going to jump in here. Entertainment value. I think the most important thing about a villain
Charisma.
is not necessarily charisma, but how much you enjoy them being on screen.
Sure.
If you don't enjoy your time with them, they're not necessarily a good villain. They're not the hero of the story. They're there to counterpoint somebody else, and the somebody else is usually who you're driving investment in. And so if we cut away from that main character for a bit to show what the villain's doing, if we're not enjoying what the villain's doing, we shouldn't even be seeing them.
How well a villain can control the scene.
I think I'm comfortable changing the round 2 criteria.
So
Absolutely.
Motivation, screen presence, I think is a way to...
Showmanship, charisma,
and then the last one
entertainment.
is... What is it?
Matchup for hero.
We should market to the kids. So Riz.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll just call it
okay.
round 2
Riz.
Riz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll get
That's
those...
short for charisma.
That'll get those tight teenagers clicking on that video.
I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the changing criteria, not what you said.
Oh.
So, instead of motivation, I think another important thing to me for villains is depth of character.
Interesting.
What do you mean by that?
So,
Like, how much do we get to explore them?
We had this argument a little while ago. I say argument. I disagreed. There were certain villains that I took out of the list, out of the even possibilities. Like the shark from Jaws. Or xenomorphs.
Right.
Predators, too. Like, they got a little bit of
the
depth.
second one?
No, that would be like the 5th one.
I felt like they're iconic. They play the role of, like, the opposition.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
They're the monster in a monster movie. They're not a villain.
Exactly.
They're just doing what they do.
It'd be like putting the thing from It on here.
But then...
It Follows.
Then you lean back, and last year, and returning again this year, you have somebody like Sephiroth. Or Darth Vader. Or the Joker. Things like that. Like, you have these characters that are so fleshed out.
I would argue that the shark from Jaws did go pretty deep.
Get the out of my house.
No, those barrels kept it near the surface most of the movie, Chris. Did you even watch the film?
Do you think, like in the second one, that was actually the revenge of a child of the shark? Or just another shark?
No, because...
You killed my mom!
Because it's called Jaws' Revenge.
Yeah, but it's
Ghost
a male shark, and a male can't get pregnant.
I think it's Goshen.
It can have children, though.
What?
You killed my dad.
It can inseminate a female.
It was a robot.
You're right. I'm sorry for everything.
None of that sounds true.
But
I've never seen a pregnant man.
male robots can also reproduce.
I've never.
But I thought they delivered the male.
Yeah. And then 9 months later.
I watched robots. They assemble their children.
Same thing.
That was a fun little joke there. In robots.
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Whether it has a cock or nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, they have your mother's eyes. Yeah, we recycled them.
So, the third
like
round was initially going to be about how well the villain matches up with their hero.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I
There's a
love
lot
that.
to talk
wanna
about
That's
keep
there.
very
Oh,
villain.
yeah.
Very
Okay.
villain, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the final 2 rounds, the semifinals and finals, are the culmination of everything.
I'm cool with motivation staying the same.
Sure.
We want to keep that?
I feel like a few characters are probably gonna
I guess motivation and depth kind of go a little bit hand in hand.
right.
Yeah.
I think there's just a few characters on here
similarities.
where like motivation comes down to I feel like being an absolute ass to everyone in the world, but I think part of that comes into
It sounds like they're going to lose.
it sounds like that, but there are some villains where that's kind of what you're here for. Sometimes
absolutely.
that makes a compelling villain is
That's kind of
like-
sort of why,
like-
like, what's an example from last one? I don't think I have one.
sometimes the Joker is one.
Well, but we
He's
pretty
got-
much narrowed down that his motivation was to prove to Gotham that one bad day, blah blah blah.
Sure. He didn't care though.
I think he
At
did.
the end of the day, he just wanted the city to burn down.
I don't know, man.
It sounds like we should go ahead and start with our first matchup.
Sure.
Roll it.
Would somebody please get me the dice?
Look at him grabbing that dice. He's rolling it. He's rolling it in his hand.
There you go.
4.
1.
Hell yeah.
Okay. So we are starting with anime.
Uh-oh.
The
New category.
Go ahead and click off, I
the
guess.
category that I am least familiar with.
We shouldn't start with this one.
So do we start with the number 1 seed?
Yeah.
All right. So,
Chris, no one listened.
see, this is interesting. I think you've made a mistake here, John. You have all these characters listed as villains, but they're like good guys. Like Vegeta, Light from Death Note,
How
Eren.
is Light a good guy?
Eren, because he's the good guy.
He's not a good guy.
Eren
crazy.
from Attack on Titan.
That's crazy, dude.
He's like the main character.
That's crazy, man.
Eric
Main character does not mean they're not the villain in their story.
Thanos.
You guys are really gonna have to convince me on these. That
yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
In Man versus Self narrative, I'm also my own villain.
I agree. I'm also your villain.
So, round 1, number 1 seed Griffith from Berserk versus number 8 Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. I'm guessing this is Saiyan arc Vegeta
Yeah,
when
it
he
must
was
be.
still a bad
This
guy,
is
Or
Saiyan
Majin
arc.
Vegeta.
So,
and a little bit of Frieza saga.
I was going to say, Vegeta did not leave the villain category until, like, Cell Saga, pretty much.
Yeah.
He was transforming out of
Android
it
Saga.
at the end of... I consider them the same.
Well, you're wrong.
Okay.
Got him.
I don't know anything about Griffith, and he's number 1 seed.
So I think I'm one of the only people who know about Griffith.
I've taken an extensive amount of time of my life in the last 3 days to try to learn
It
about
is your
him.
corner.
Okay. So
I know he has
Who
white hair.
is Griffith?
Griffith is
So what is Griffith's motivation at this point? Because I don't know anymore.
at this stage. Griffith's motivation is essentially,
Maintain the status quo, I guess.
he is now essentially, I'm going to rule the world as more than just a god. I'm going to both be a god and rule everybody.
Notice it started out as rule a kingdom.
Yep.
It started out as, at the very, very beginning, it was rule a castle. Then it became rule a kingdom. And then it became rule the world.
Yeah. Now it's I want everything there ever was.
Obviously, I've never read the manga. I've never even seen the anime. I struggle to understand why this guy's seed number 1. We haven't even talked about Vegeta. I don't want to hear another word about Griffith. I can already tell you Vegeta wins. I can't fathom why that guy's apparently number one. And here's my reaction to it, because Vegeta wins. He gets my vote. We haven't even talked about him. This motherfucker is just, his motivation is, I want to be king.
It does feel a little vapid. Though, I suppose Vegeta's only motivation is conquest.
Well, I actually have something to talk about with Vegeta.
If you don't want to hear the point where everybody flips and understands why he's the villain, we can ignore that part.
God damn it. Why didn't you just start with this?
We spent 30 minutes talking about Griffith.
It's very hard to, like, go over
I
things.
think
there's...
From what I took the time to try to understand, the reason why Griffith is apparently a great villain is because everything he does eventually has a level of understanding behind it. That, like, you see the decisions that he makes, and apparently you're like, oh, well, I know he did this because this leads here, and this is who his character is. This is who we've been shown.
The other part is, one of the things that you don't see if you don't, read and watch everything is, he starts to lose his drive on that goal. He goes from, all of my friends, all of the people I lead are just a means to an end, to, I care about these people and I want good for them and I want them to be just as well off as I am and all these other things. He really does connect with everyone in the band and the Hawk. He is a phenomenal leader. He makes these people care about him, and he does care about them. And then when one person's like, I'm gonna leave, he's like, I can't have everything I want. He goes and fucks himself up and realizes, I lost sight of my dream. Everything I care about is the price that I have to pay to have it all. You have to be able to sacrifice everything. So he's got this level of betrayal that happens where he really does genuinely connect with these people and care about them. And at his absolute lowest, he's willing to sacrifice all of them to get one step ahead from where he was when he hits absolute rock bottom.
It's compelling.
It is compelling.
Having not seen the source material, I'm having trouble.
Let's talk about Vegeta.
Let's talk about him.
My read on Vegeta has always been that he wants to embody the person that he already believes he is. For example, he's living his best life when he's under the thumb of Frieza, except he's under the thumb of Frieza.
Yeah.
He's the strongest Saiyan, but there's
Prince of all
that.
Saiyans.
He is the prince. He's the king.
He's the strongest.
But he still calls himself the prince because he is exactly where he wants to be. That's my read.
Subservient? Second level?
He is the prince of all Saiyans. That's what he wants to be.
He doesn't want to rule, but he wants to be right under it.
And he wants to be that legend. And then he meets Goku, who is everything he hates that he isn't. Where Goku, he isn't living the legend. Goku is the fucking legend. Goku is the Super Saiyan. Goku beats him and is this low-born trash. I'm supposed to be the guy that's on top. I'm a highborn. I was born with the highest power level or whatever the hell. I deserve this. And then we have that scene of him like, I want to be Super Saiyan.
I wanna.
He just isn't. He can't be. Unfortunately, he is eventually.
He breaks down crying.
Yeah,
he does.
He can't be. He can't be that legend that he wants to so desperately be. So his motivation for me has always been embody the legend that he so desperately believes himself to be.
But in the Saiyan arc, he does believe that.
That's what I'm saying.
He believes he's already there.
And then he meets Goku, and Goku's this low-born trash that just proves him wrong.
Well, not at first, because he it took the whole squad for them to beat Vegeta.
Yeah.
No, but what you get what I'm saying though.
And he took most of them out.
They were proven. He was proven wrong. He lost that fight, regardless of whether it was against Yajirobe and friends or just Goku. He lost that. He even lost that beam struggle, and that was the moment when he's like, "Son of a bitch."
Yeah, that's true.
He's like above the clouds and being like, I have to turn to a fucking monkey to beat this guy? Are you for real? This guy.
I think it was the Ginyu Force that made him start to believe, like, fuck.
Yeah.
He's better than me. I'm not going to let it. He's not going to know it.
Goku shows up and is like, all cool. He beats Raccoon with a single punch.
Can you do the Vegeta?
I refuse.
Oh, please.
Vegeta! Erasergun! Those are the two things. Raccoon kick! Erasergun! Full power. Anyway.
Why isn't Raccoon on this list?
He is too good.
What's interesting about Vegeta is that his motivation does evolve.
Absolutely.
It does.
It actually becomes the same motivation as Goku. Become better than Goku.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Vegeta is one of the handful of people on this list that eventually go into the anti-hero status.
Yeah.
And then just full-on hero at a certain stage.
Yeah, I mean, he did murk a whole crowd of people.
Yeah, they're in Dragon Ball Super, I can kind of get you saying he's just a hero, but even then, like, I have this, like, nagging feeling in my mind that, like, if Bulma weren't there, he could just...
Yeah.
There's
just
nothing tying him down. Yeah.
So I watched this very well constructed video essay on Vegeta.
Cheater.
This was before the bracket.
Cheater.
Very good. More like the cheater.
He was so he got this power up in the latest Super manga called
Don't spoil it. Hey, whoa, don't be spoiling. I'm for real.
Okay.
Are you talking about Ultra Ego?
Instinct.
No.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
His motivation is and has always been pride.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this was about. Why the new power up makes sense. And so it goes through his whole character arc from being the Prince of Saiyans to being subordinate to Frieza to losing against lowborn trash Goku to consistently losing against lowborn trash and not realizing why to deciding, well, if I can't beat him, then why try? And then realizing, no, I should try. And then realizing I will give everything to be better because I am that prideful. And that's what Majin Vegeta is all about.
Well, my read on that, like that the, I guess, ultimatum of that scenario, the Majin Vegeta arc, is he finally, it's through that it finally dawns on him, oh, the reason I keep losing to Goku is because Goku has something to fight for. And that's why he's able to beat Boo with his farewell explosion thing, because he wants to save Trunks and Bulma.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
In fact, he just dies.
Yeah.
But they bring him back.
It is a great final moment, and that's like the last time I would consider him a legitimate villain.
Yeah.
That's his returning point.
But he still has that pride, even as an anti-hero.
There's one thing you can never take from a Saiyan.
His pride.
Their tail. Oh no, none of them have tails.
They all lost
Not
the tail.
anymore.
Interesting that the character arcs of Griffith and Vegeta are reversed. Griffith starts out as a good guy and becomes a bad guy. Vegeta starts out as a bad guy and becomes more
Vegeta's
good.
a bit of a sine wave.
Yeah, but it mostly hits a steady state.
Sure, for sure. I mean, I've already made this clear. I can't vote for Griffith. I don't even understand the character.
I've spent some time watching Berserk, and I'm already there, so I'm going to finish watching the second season.
Yeah.
And hopefully, maybe that'll, like, I'm waiting for the, oh, fuck, hey, guys, Griffith would have won.
Look.
But I'm going with Vegeta as well.
Griffith, sure, I can understand being a material girl and wanting everything.
This is a material world.
Exactly. But there's something about Vegeta's pride that is humanizing in a way. Like, everyone...
You aren't proud of yourself. None of us are.
And that's why I'm voting for Griffith.
It's because he's not human.
Oh, yes, of course.
But it is something tangible that I can be like, that makes sense to me. Like, I understand. I'm also a big fan of corn.
I love corn.
The thing is that it's understandable in a way that I can relate to, and I think that is important.
Sure,
the relatability.
Yeah. That's not one of the
motivation.
categories.
I know.
So we're talking about motivation, though.
Yeah,
he's saying that's relatable as a motivation.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say we got rid of the
prideful.
relatability
And
category.
I can absolutely agree with that.
That's fair.
If that's, I mean, I've never had I guess everybody's had this base urge at one point or another to be, man, I wish I were in charge. Then I would change everything to be the way I want it to be. And
I've stopped wanting to be in charge.
Is that what Griffith wants?
So
It sounds like he just wants people under him. Nice.
That kind of does happen.
It kind of sounds like he just wants to matter and be important.
I think at the end of the day, yeah.
That is the big part of it, is he wants to be important. And it ends up being both his greatest strength and his greatest downfall, in that he wants, to some extent, to be the most important person in everyone's life. And part of his character arc in the Golden Age, the first art of it, is he does become the most important person in a small select group of people's lives, to the point that they will go out of their way to die for him.
Something I'm just realizing for him, when Guts left and like he realized like, oh, I can't have everything, like his motivation then kind of became like, well, I want to ruin Guts.
That is part of
it. When Guts returns to find out that he was captured in the Golden Age arc, there is always this off and on thing where the Casca lady really wanted to be with Griffith, but Griffith never even looked at her. She couldn't give him anything. So then there started to become a bond between Guts and Casca. And Griffith saw this, and in that final episodes, like, he was doing everything he could to just destroy who Guts was. And I have a feeling like that follows through even later on.
So yeah, the thing is, at his lowest, when Guts leaves and he is being tortured, he comes to the realization that he had given up on his original dream. Unknowingly, he had moved away from that. He started on a different path because he'd gotten used to being important to these people and caring about them. And he realized in that dungeon that wasn't worth it. That's not what he wanted. He didn't want to be important to just these people who he could see. He wanted to be important to everyone. And that meant he had to sacrifice those people to get what he wanted.
All this being said...
And Guts is the epitome of the people who had wronged him in that regard.
All this being said, we're 42 minutes in, and we're still on the first matchup.
Oh my fucking god.
I'm still sticking with Vegeta. Scott said Vegeta. Chris, you were going with Vegeta? Cody?
I think wanting to be better than one person is better motivation than wanting to be better than everyone. It's too abstract. And I'm sure we're upsetting a lot of people.
Because he's apparently
leave them in the comments.
The other sad part is the manga will never get finished.
Yeah, so the manga creator passed away.
Yeah.
So
sounds like a knock against fucking Guts or whatever his name is. What's his name? Griffith.
Vegeta.
Hell yeah.
What I think...
Kyle, can you get... What are we doing?
I mean, I would stick with Griffith just because 10 years after having read the manga, I still have a visceral reaction to the character.
Maybe I'll read the manga.
As a villain, but I can't do more to change your guys' mind without you understanding the source material, so...
Vegeta wins.
I think...
Vegeta wins.
I think...
hour in.
Where we stand is that Vegeta's motivation has an end goal. If it wasn't for Goku, he'd already be at his goal.
Next matchup.
Yep.
Please.
We've got Light Turner from the Netflix Death Note movie.
No!
Versus Sid Vicious from Motley Crue.
Yeah, I believe that is one. He's the drummer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me. Light Yagami from Death Note. Vicious from Cowboy Bebop.
Who knows Light Yagami?
I saw half of Death Note.
I know the basic
You saw the important
of
half.
him.
Hell yeah.
With the beginning of it back.
Yeah, I saw the last half of Death Note. It was really confusing.
Yeah, I didn't know what's going on.
Who the hell is L?
I think Light wins just because of how dramatically he can eat a potato chip.
All right.
Dude, the scenes were pretty intense.
I'll be the first to admit this, and I'm certain so many people will disagree with me. Cowboy Bebop favorite anime. I think Vicious is one of the weakest villains I've ever seen in an anime.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
He got the number 5 seed.
There is so little... The reason he got the number 5 seed is because he's one of the best anime of all time.
Yeah.
I was about to ask
the rest of the show is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Okay.
There is so little going on with Vicious. He's like part of some basically space mafia thing that Spike used to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Basically space Yakuza. And that's it.
Yeah.
There's a lady named Julia. She was involved with Spike, but I think Vicious wanted her. But of course she didn't agree.
He's really just kind of like a face to be an antagonist.
I wouldn't even say that, because honestly, it's a bit of a slice of life anime.
Yeah.
Like an episode a week. They don't really fully connect. There is an arc. There is a plot line through, but you don't get Vicious, like this guy, maybe 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that's just pretty weak. Again, never read the manga. Maybe it's a different story. Totally different than the Netflix one. Total dog shit. But
how do you even compare that to Light?
Yeah, Light's
in terms of motivation.
Thing, yeah,
like
he wants to remake the world in his image. He wants to make it as the perfect world, so he thinks.
I was gonna say at first he doesn't know what he has, and then he gives it a shot, and then you see him starting to really test the waters.
It's like I've always felt the idea behind Death Note is, what if a Death Note, what if a book that killed people when I wrote your name in it, fell into the absolute worst person's hands? The person who could wield it, like Zeth, wield it with utmost precision.
Zero conscience.
Yeah.
See,
Completely objective.
When I think of Death Note, I don't think of it like that. I think of it as what happens to a person when you give them the ultimate weapon.
I mean, that too, absolutely.
Yeah, that's... Did the Death Note make Light this way, or was he always this way?
I think part of it is that he always was.
That's my read.
I think he had a lot of hate for people, but this was just a tool that was now at his disposal.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw it as he thinks he's better than. It's more like, if I had the ability, I could make paradise.
He's also so cold.
Immediately proven false.
Yeah.
The first thing he did with this was let's test the waters.
Let's just test. Yeah, let's see what happens.
Let's just
the
randomly
potato
kill
chip scene,
someone.
it's a joke, but he's flipping through the channels, okay, this person's name, and he's monologuing over it, all right, well, if you just put their name in, they're gone in the next minute. But if I put something after that, a cause of death, it immediately happens.
And he never questions the idea that, is he worthy of being the executioner and jury?
Never even crosses
his mind. He's like, I have this power. I know what's right.
So, by the way, spoilers.
Sorry.
We're totally going to be spoiling things.
Yeah.
Just read the manga.
So,
we'll put a spoiler warning.
I haven't seen the end, but I have had all of it spoiled. Am I right in remembering that he's basically right at the end?
Well,
doesn't crime drop 97%?
Yeah, that's the thing.
And it actually is.
He made his paradise, and people were afraid. But that's the thing. It's like Templars versus Assassins.
Yeah,
the Assassins want to save the world through freedom. The Templars want to save the world through control. He is that Templar ideal.
There
I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey,
because
guys.
literally everyone was terrified of someone who could strike them dead at any second. And he was near the end, wasn't he going after people for the smallest things?
I don't really remember. All I remember from the end is how upsetting upset it was. You know what it is? I feel like the writer convinced himself there's no way Light loses against L. And so L dies. Spoiler alert. But then there's just another orphan smart guy that's able to capture...
twins?
No, it was just another orphan.
There were 2 of them.
There's more than 2. There's just another orphan named In, I think his name is.
To me, the series ended with L's death.
I agree. Because I hated that there was just another super smart orphan guy who... And Light... It was at that point that Light...
Was he being trained by L?
Well, he was for some reason, this orphanage is just making weird antisocial detective people.
I think we don't need as much debate on this one.
No,
it's not really a matchup.
I've never even seen Cowboy Bebop.
Highly recommended.
Yeah.
Not for Vicious, though.
I wouldn't even say that Vicious is the most compelling villain in Cowboy Bebop. But I digress. Light.
I
think you got me.
Light.
Let there be light.
All right, moving on. We have number 6, Dio, from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure versus number 2, Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan. Take it away, guys.
I can't talk about Dio.
You can talk about Dio.
I can only basically talk about Dio a little bit.
That's probably fine because I don't think it's going to be a very
I don't think so.
competitive matchup.
Dio's primary motivation, as far as I've worked, because I only tangentially know a little bit about JoJo, is his whole motivation seems to come down to fuck Joseph Joestar and everything he stands for. Because he got the girl I wanted, even though I was his adopted brother.
Is the idea that Dio is like this undying entity or something?
He became a vampire
That's
just
what
to
it is.
fuck with Joseph.
And so now all of his, the anime is all of JoJo's descendants
Yes.
fighting Dio.
Dio dies at some point, although his son shows up in like the 5th season?
I don't know.
I people know like the first part with Joseph, and then, like, the one with, Josuke. But past that, couldn't tell you.
I'll go ahead and say this. I don't remember if I said this while we were recording. Eren Yeager is my front runner. You will all have to do some convincing that this guy doesn't win the whole tournament.
I mean, I saw the list of anime characters, and I'm like, this is it. He's the guy. Like,
I can think of maybe one other guy that I could be convinced of in a different bracket.
Okay.
But we have to decide. We have to base it on the criteria here.
Exactly.
So maybe that'll be a wild card.
Well, let me tell you about Eren Yeager's motivation. At the base of it all, he wants to be free. It starts out as, I want to kill every Titan.
The Titans are what is oppressing humanity, and they are the reason that we live like cattle behind these walls. And I don't want to be afraid anymore. So I'm going to make them afraid of me. But then he tries that, and they're just an unstoppable force of nature. They don't feel fear. And so he has to become fear, like Batman. No, nothing like that. But his motivation throughout, I feel, is... It starts out as, I need to be free. I need everyone to be free. I need humanity to be free. And then it becomes...
Humanity
This
being
is
his
huge
friends.
spoilers. Huge spoilers. Humanity hasn't ended. Behind the walls, the Titans are being released onto the walls by the rest of humanity. And everyone on the island inside the walls are the people who have the ability to turn into Titans.
It is a bloodline
Interesting.
And so it very strong parallels with Jewish people and the Nazis. But the whole world, at least to Eren's perspective, are the Nazis.
Yeah.
thing.
And it'd be better if they were just all gone. Then at least
There's
can be
layers. There's layers to the shackles of their freedom. At first, he thinks it's the Titans, but then he finds out that it's them behind this, and he goes from being
He's the problem.
He goes from being this main character to the man that, like, he's like, I'm freeing my people, to I'm destroying the rest of the world. Otherwise, we can't be free.
And it's such a well-written execution of that, where the author has tricked us into being in a scenario where it seems like the only correct move forward is a genocide on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's despicable and wonderful, and his motivation is to either, at the very end, is to enact that genocide for the sake of him and his friends' freedom.
His motivation is so honest that even when all of the worst stuff is happening and you're like, man, I don't want to root for this guy to, like, destroy the world, but I kind of want to root for him. Like,
Because at the very least, you can see it. It's not fair that they have to take the brunt of the world's hate. And he is like a reflection of all that hate coming back onto the world. And, like, there's this idealist in me that's like, maybe after the credits roll, the world understands it. That they'll be like, we can't let this happen again. But it's just not the way the world works.
And for a time, sort of.
Yeah.
Because, like, the very end credits, you see Paradise Island growing and blossoming, and it's full of freedom and peace. And then the 20% of the world that survived regrows and begins to bomb it and starts a war again. After everything's said and done, decades, centuries down the line, you see this happen. But that was his goal, was to bring freedom for his people.
Damn. And in doing so, he
Wiped out most of the same thing he was standing against.
Yeah.
Yep.
He became the thing he hated the most and hated himself for it.
Yeah.
And we see that at the end.
He recognized what he became.
Like, we see that at the end that he's a kid.
Yep.
And he never stopped being a kid, but he was granted this, like, light. He was granted this unbelievably strong power, the power to enact real change in the world, and he wielded it brutally. Light. Eren wins for me. I don't know anything about Dio, guys, other than what you just said.
He's entertaining to watch, but motivationally,
Yeah.
He's there to be an asshole to the main character.
So, yeah, the idea is he didn't get the girl. Is that what you said?
I didn't even see that part, so I think that's part of what happens.
And then he's like a generational hatred.
Something like that. Except he's the one who's still doing it.
That's at least interesting to me. The idea that he's a vampire and still like Jojo's second granddaughter or whatever.
He does end up killing Joseph in front of Joseph's son.
It reminds me of
great music in Jojo.
Yes. It reminds
me. Do you know about Dio?
A little bit.
Okay.
It reminds me of the Castlevania series, and like,
you should have put the Castlevania bad guys on here.
The main character like tries to punch him, and he's like, and he catches it, and
doesn't even catch it.
Well, he just
lets him punch him in the face.
Nothing happens from it, and he's just like, "You're the Belmont," and I'm like, because he knows how this goes. Because he's dealt with them before. And so Dio's just like, screw you, screw your bloodline, and just tries to mess with them.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say screw Dio's bloodline, and I'm going with Eren Yeager.
Oh, no. I think Eren...
Motivationally, Eren's way better.
I think you've convinced me to go with Eren.
Oh.
No, I'm not going to subvert expectations like that.
Wow.
Eren.
Coward.
You spelled it wrong.
Cody is really into generational
it's right there in front
hatred.
of you.
And the last matchup for this part of the bracket is Askeladd from Vinland Saga versus Frieza from
Crazy deja vu from this.
Dragon Ball Z, another Dragon Ball Z villain.
They got some good villains. I'll say Frieza's motivation seems kind of lacking for me.
Just wants to rule everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we voted out the last person that wanted that.
Yeah. But I don't know anything about this. Somebody please talk about Askeladd. Anybody?
I know, so I made a choice. I either was watching the Vinland Saga or Berserk.
I recommend Vinland Saga. The first season, I just watched it like frickin' when it came out. That was so long
The
ago.
animation looks interesting for it.
It looks great.
Wait, you've seen?
I don't even know who Askeladd is. There's been another season since then. Maybe he's in there. But I watched this like when it came out 3 years ago. No clue.
Okay, Chris? Any help here?
I got nothing. Where was he seated?
Third.
He was up there.
It looks like.
Really?
We're gonna be making some people angry.
Frieza's motivation feels weak.
Pretty weak.
It feels extremely weak because I want immortality.
He is ranked 7th.
Like, the interesting thing, we can have a conversation, at least to me, we can have a conversation about somebody like Vegeta because there is something there. Like, it's not just he is there to be evil and be beaten by the bad guy.
Yeah.
Frieza seems like that to me.
And it's the frustrating thing about Frieza's motivation is that it's not unique.
Maybe Frieza's motivation is fear. Because he killed all the Saiyans because he was so afraid of the legend being true.
Yeah.
I suppose, yes. But he also shares the motivation with Vegeta and Garlic and Piccolo.
Yeah.
They all want to be immortal.
I mean, like, so Frieza eventually comes back. And at that point, Frieza's motivation is just pure hatred.
Revenge after the golden
thing.
Yeah. Because I've always liked that idea. That he was just born with the pinnacle of power in his eyes. It didn't even occur to him to train. And I really like that idea that he comes back to life and is like, oh, I could just bench press some stuff.
Yeah.
and
for like 6 months.
Yeah, and I'll be better than I was before. The idea that self-improvement wasn't even on his radar.
Yeah. Which is the exact opposite motivation of Goku.
Absolutely.
Well, it's not even the exact opposite. It's just the lack of motivation. Like, from a story perspective, he might be Goku's best villain. Maybe Vegeta. But
Vegeta stops being a villain and
my
starts
favorite. No, it's Frieza. I was going to say my favorite might be Piccolo because I like him fighting Piccolo and then at the end of Dragon Ball. But I think my favorite's Frieza. Like, he goes Super Saiyan. It's just pure id. It's amazing.
Frieza's motivation in that moment, in the Frieza arc, Frieza's motivation was to get the Namekian Dragon Balls to become immortal.
Mm-hmm.
Simple, just bad guys going for immortality.
Yeah.
But they turned Frieza into the strongest adversary Goku has ever faced.
Yep.
I like the idea that because we know nothing about Askeladd, we're currently going Frieza versus Frieza. Should Frieza win, or should Askeladd win because Frieza's not good enough?
Right.
And I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not watching anymore.
I will
probably watch Vinland Saga.
I will gladly watch Vinland Saga,
and watch it together.
Yeah,
okay, sure.
I will submit Askeladd just because I know Frieza's weak on the motivation.
What'd you get?
2.
Do you guys...
Here's a question. Do we pause the video, reconvene in a week, having watched Vinland Saga, and just splice in our
Honestly,
update?
I'm all for that.
That's fine.
Okay.
And we're back. I watched Vinland Saga, guys.
How was it?
It's great.
What was it about?
I'm going to tell you. Well, I'm going to tell you about the villain at the very least, because I do think you should watch it.
Okay.
His name's Askeladd, actually.
Okay.
And he tells us his whole backstory pretty deep into the first season. So,
fantastic.
He was a slave. Well, he was the child of a slave. His father was a Dane. It's taking place in like the very early 11th century.
Okay.
And his father was a Dane and had taken his mother as a slave. His mother was like royalty in Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And he was he used her.
He was the illegitimate son.
And he was the illegitimate son of this. He was like a clan chief type of thing. And he didn't give him a name. And fathers naming their children was like a big thing, apparently, back in the day. And so people would just call him Askeladd, which literally means covered in ash, because he would just work as like a stable boy in the furnaces. And he was always perpetually covered in grime and ash. So they just called him like, look at that ash-covered asshole.
Ash boy.
It got that deep.
His son, maybe. This is like a theme. He's like a weird reflection of the main character, like a dark reflection. Both of their mothers are ill. The main character's mother has some sort of weird, vague, maybe it's something stemming from giving birth, and it's just because of the time. Something stuck with her, and she's never gotten over it, that kind of thing. Regardless, his mother there's something wrong with Asheladd's mother, and at one point, he just says she breaks. She's wandering through the street. She's from Wales and taught him all of this stuff about Welsh myth and legend about how King Arthur went across the sea to heal in Avalon. And one day he'll come back and remove all of these evil people and retake Wales and make it peaceful again.
Evil people meaning
Danes.
The Danes. Okay.
And his mother, who was a slave, was literally a royal figure in Wales. So, theoretically, Askeladd sees himself as being the rightful king of Britannia. But his mom has some sort of psychotic break, and she's wandering through the street like she's not okay. She sees Asheladd's dad and thinks, oh my god, King Arthur's here. He's returned from Avalon. And he approaches her. And the guy's like, okay, bro, why is this slave touching me? And he's about to kill her. And Askeladd just acts in that moment and grabs a sword and defends his mom. And he's only like 10. But his dad sees this and he's like, bro, you've never even held a sword before, I can tell. But you got it. Whatever it is, you got it. Why don't you be like one of my sons now. And so Askeladd continues to explain that he ingratiated himself into this world. He was the perfect son. He got along with his brothers. And then one day, when he had been trained in the sword enough, he waited for his dad to be asleep after banging some hooker and killed him with his brother's sword. And he chose a brother that was dissenting among the brothers, dissenting to the dad. And then the other brothers blamed him because he'd been playing the perfect son this whole time.
Yeah.
And that's it. So the way I describe Askeladd is he is the perfect example of an opportunistic manipulator. With the main character, blah, 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 very truncated version. The main character's father is killed by Askeladd through proxy, and the main character's father is this great warrior, and he leaves the battlefield to raise his son and decides killing people is not what a true warrior does. A true warrior doesn't need to use a sword. That kind of thing. And the theme throughout the whole show is, what is a true warrior? What does it mean to be a true warrior? And his father, he's like the only one who's figured it out. And he's dead now, by proxy through Askeladd. And Askeladd was just another job. And the interesting thing about him throughout the show is I'm not sure when he's being genuine or not. The viewer isn't sure when he's being genuine. Even that backstory, I'm taking it on faith that he's not just bullshitting. I like that. I like that a lot. There's like 2 moments throughout his entire scenes that I can think of where I genuinely think he's being genuine with whoever he's talking to. There's a character named Bjorn. Bjorn is dying, and him and Bjorn have been together in this crew of mercenaries. He's kind of like a Dutch, Askeladd is, where he's the leader of this crew of mercenaries, and they're just following the tide of war. Like at one point, they want to kidnap the prince of the Danes, and they're like, we can give him to the English, we can give him to the Danes. You know what happens? They have no allegiance. But then Askeladd sees this prince of the Danes and is like, I could spin this to make Wales prosper. What Wales really wants is for the Danes to just fuck off.
Yeah.
They want to just leave themselves their own shitty land and just live there. Those are the 2 moments I think he's genuine. Whenever it's for the prosperity of Wales, he's being genuine. And whenever it's with Bjorn, because Bjorn is this weird, like, berserker guy. And he's there with Askeladd throughout the whole anime until Bjorn dies as well. And, like, Bjorn's last conversation with Askeladd is, you were my true friend. Was I yours? And Askeladd's like, yeah. And then he dies. And Askeladd's the one who kills him because, like, that whole, like, Valhalla thing.
Yeah.
He had, like, got a wound and he didn't want to die in bed. All that being said, we'll talk more about Askeladd because he's probably, at least for me, he's going to win this one. Because Frieza is pretty one note. So, as far as motivation goes, his motivation, the only thing I can think is the prosperity of, at a certain point, he is acting specifically to make sure Wales stays safe. And he fucking hates the Danes. Even though he's half Dane, it's because his father was. He hates Vikings. Even though he goes raping and pillaging just like all they do.
I think that's a very interesting, compelling character. I think, depending on how you want to present the story of Vinland Saga, Askeladd isn't even a villain.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a villain in the perspective of the main character. The main character, this is why he's like the biggest example of him being an opportunistic manipulator. The main character, as a 5-year-old kid, sees his father get cut down or shot to death by arrows by proxy through Askeladd, and he stands up and says, I'm gonna fucking kill you, Askeladd. And Askeladd's like, alright. And he strings him along, and we just see him warp this poor boy into his killing machine.
Yeah.
Because he keeps going, if you bring me an officer's head, I'll let you duel me. Then he duel him, and of course Askeladd wins, because he's like a great warrior, and also like fucking 50 years old, and outweighs him by 200 pounds. And the kid's like, oh, next time I'm gonna fucking get him. And he's just stringing him along, and it's horrible to watch.
Sure you will, kid.
Yeah, it's horrible to watch what happens to this poor kid throughout the show.
It's also interesting that we see this perpetual cycle of violence.
Absolutely.
Where Askeladd was wronged by his father, so he killed his father, and then the main character's father was killed by Askeladd, and so that puts the main character, whose name hasn't come up yet.
His name is Thorfinn,
on this vengeance conquest. When Askeladd is just like, hey, this is my land, and you are the invaders.
Well, no, that's the thing. He's just raping and pillaging around England.
Oh.
This Wales thing comes up, like, out of fucking nowhere, because we don't know who he is. He is just some leader of a band of mercenaries, and then...
He's just some random Viking, essentially, and then he's like...
Then after they kidnap the prince that I mentioned, they're like, all right, we need to escape from this other band of Vikings who was chasing after us because they want to bring their prince back to the Danes. They're like, how can we escape? We'll go through Wales. And that's how we, like, he like, talking to this guy, and apparently he has a connect in Wales. Then we learn through that interaction that he is technically the next royalty in line in Wales.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless.
I don't know.
But can he blow up planets in 5 minutes?
He cannot.
Does he have a tail?
He does not have it. Oh, well, we didn't see it.
Okay.
I will have to knock some points off for the horrendous, just despicable cultural appropriation here.
Absolutely.
Of the Japanese stealing Northern European culture.
Reprehensible.
For their own capitalistic gains. But, I mean, Frieza is just a villain you love to hate.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no depth here. Really. I mean, he gets a little bit of depth in Resurrection F.
This is going to sound more disparaging than I mean it to be. He's like a villain of the week that lasts for a month.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, I feel like Frieza's made it this far. I say this far, like, Frieza made it through, like, everything that I put together because of just how iconic that character was and what they did to push Goku along.
Yeah.
Goku made it to the next step in a believable way because of who Frieza was.
With that in mind, I'd put his motivation at, like, especially with Goku in mind, proving that he is not a legend.
Mm-hmm.
And that Frieza poo-poos the idea that anyone could be stronger than him.
Yeah.
I guess. All that being said, my vote goes to Askeladd because I just spent fucking 9 hours of my life watching Vinland Saga.
Honestly, we thank you for that sacrifice.
Honestly, swayed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see Frieza match up with Vegeta later in the tournament, mostly because it's the only way Vegeta could beat Frieza in a fight.
Yeah.
But you've convinced me to go with Askeladd.
Great music in Vinland Saga. Like, and I don't mean the intro and the outro, like, the score is fantastic. What's your vote, Chris?
I'm gonna have to give it to the Welsh.
Yeah?
Yep.
That they have to get a win sometime.
Yeah.
Have you seen them try to pronounce their land names? Their town names? Incredible.
This man's name is spelt with a K.
I don't know why it's Askeladd.
John, mostly ceremonial at this point. Who are you voting for?
You said one thing that turned me off, and it's mostly because I also wasted a large amount of my time watching Berserk,
and
I also mentioned that he was a very Dutch figure.
Yeah,
and that character lost. So I'm going with Frieza.
All right. Well, Dragon Ball beats Dutch, except for when it doesn't.
Okay, we are done, finally, with anime villains.
For now. God, it feels like it took a week.
Let's see where we're going to next. It's number 2, which I'm going to say is bottom
He's just
left.
Picking which one he wants to do. This one's number 2.
This, TV and movies, guys.
Oh, nice.
So, our first matchup here, we have a returning contender. We have Hannibal Lecter seated first against number 8, Hans Gruber from Die Hard.
Okay.
Talking about motivation here.
So, I don't like watching Christmas movies, so someone explain...
You've never seen Die Hard?
I've never seen Die Hard.
Okay. Hans Gruber's motivation...
It's interesting that you know it's a Christmas movie, then.
Hans
Just gonna
Gruber's...
call that out.
Yeah, okay.
I should have said you've never seen Silence of the Lambs,
Oh no, I watched that thing on repeat.
implying that that's a Christmas movie.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie in the same way that Nightmare Before Christmas is a Christmas movie.
In the same way that Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie.
Which meaning they're not.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Please explain Hans.
Okay, Hans Gruber is Alan Rickman pretending to be a German who wants to get a lot of money out of a bank.
He's a bank robber.
He's a bank robber.
Okay.
And
So
he
hold on,
has a
Hans
crew.
Gruber is Alan Rickman, actually?
Yeah.
He doesn't
Yes.
make a false name?
Absolutely. There's several layers here.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Hans Booby. Love that movie. Love that movie.
Oh my god, you're one of them.
Oh my god. That, honestly, great action.
Great
Great action.
acting.
Yeah.
Because it's a guy acting.
Yeah.
He's a British actor.
He's a British actor pretending to be a German guy, pretending to be an American guy.
And it's so good.
to convince a cop that he's
From
not
New
a
York.
German guy.
I think both of these have very simple motivations, so I think it's, this is just coming from me. I think it's more about which one I find more compelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Feel free to shoot me down. I feel like Hans' motivation, it's pretty well stated, unless there's some subtext I'm not picking up on. He wants to get money. He wants to complete this heist, and
There's something that's making me think there was something a little more deep. Like he wanted
his brother shows up in one of
he
them.
wanted to destabilize something, or did he just want money?
He just wanted the money. He's just an arrogant prick who also kind of felt like proving a point, but the money was the only thing that was really motivating
I
him.
think his brother shows up in the third one, and even he
Yeah.
isn't like out for revenge or anything.
Oh no, he is. I thought
Is
he was. He's like.
It's been so long since I watched it.
Yeah. He's the one that makes John McClane go walk in Harlem with the sign.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So he definitely wants revenge.
Okay.
But he's also just trying to get rich.
Yeah.
I think the revenge is incidental.
Regardless.
He can do both.
I'm not
not
really
talking
sure
about
what
him.
else to talk about with Hans Gruber other than I love the character. I love Alan Rickman, rip in peace.
Mm-hmm. Hannibal Lecter's an interesting one. I think I would probably find him the more compelling character.
I will agree.
I think especially in Silence of the Lambs, which
In the Silence of the Lambs, isn't his motivation primarily just get out of prison?
Well, I think it's that. I think I hit the nail on the head in the last tournament with him when I said his motivation for me is he knows he is the smartest guy in the room. He wants to prove to everybody that he is.
There is that.
and he wants to kind of rub it in their face
Yeah.
too, because he's playing with Clarice the entire
Absolutely.
time
Yeah.
she's trying to
I feel
solve the
bad 'cause
case.
I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs. I've only seen Hannibal Lecter in Red Dragon and
Also a good film.
Yep.
Hannibal, where he's not played by Anthony Hopkins.
I've
but
heard it's
Mads
really
Mikkelsen.
good, but I just don't have the patience, I guess. I should really just watch it.
Mm-hmm.
From what I hear, Mads Mikkelsen does a fantastic Hannibal Lecter.
That's every time anyone brings it up is Mads Mikkelsen's so great.
Here's an interesting twist. We didn't bring it up the last time we talked about Hannibal Lecter last year. Talking about his motivation, he has some very interesting motivations. However, they are a little stilted because of his mental illness. It almost feels like there are forces outside of his control compelling him, and that's probably a very flawed understanding of mental illness.
I don't know exactly what you mean, though.
I think he's just got this darkness that compels him to do dark things. And like that might not be scientifically accurate, but we're talking about a fictional character and we're talking about stories and narrative here. And so it is a useful tool, I think, in storytelling to lean a bit on this kind of thoughts about the character. The character is not totally in control of their own actions.
It's interesting you say that. I've never sensed a dichotomy with him. And by that I mean, when he's like a dead-eyed serial killer, it's still just Hannibal Lecter to me. It's not a different guy.
That's the thing that I think that a lot of people like. Hannibal Lecter, the gentleman, is the mask.
For sure.
Like,
but I've never seen, I guess what I'm saying is my brain's never separated the two.
right.
Maybe it shouldn't.
I don't know.
Well, for your own safety, it shouldn't.
For your own sake.
Yeah.
Thank God he's on that side of the screen, okay? He'd eat my ass, literally.
Probably prefer the liver.
He'd go for the nice rump roast. You kidding me?
Yeah,
Kyle,
but
if
like,
I've learned anything from you, animals eat the body through the ass because it's the fastest point of entry.
Okay.
Yeah, have you ever seen that
that is in
squaw?
fact true.
Wow.
There's a video of a squaw eating a penguin's asshole.
I can't
I
care enough to direct him.
I love a good like psycho.
Speaking of Psycho,
Right, I love a good psycho thriller. And
That surprises me because you're scared of everything.
yeah, but
well,
then,
they're on that side of the screen, John.
yeah.
No, don't agree with me.
Well, like, there's a difference between the supernatural and like psychosis,
Sure.
right? And I like picking apart someone's brain and figuring out how it ticks. And so when there's an anomaly, like a psycho killer, I find that enjoyable to watch. And I love Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal Lecter. Like so yes, he wants to be, he knows he is on top of everyone else, and he likes to put them in their place. But then, like, at the very end, when he, spoiler, he gets out for his, like, revenge plot, it almost comes out of nowhere unless you know anything about the rest of it.
Yeah.
But it's still like, I'm having a friend for dinner. It's like, God, I love it.
He's having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a fun, campy villain, and I want to give it to him.
It's good. Okay. It's a good dichotomy between the two characters because they're both very fun, campy villains.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good
Fair.
connect right there.
Maybe it's because I haven't seen.
I think even if you have seen it, well, this one's just going to go to Hannibal because there's not a lot, to me, not a lot going on with Hans outside of the wonderful, like, fun to watch performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I unfortunately.
To me, just your motivation being a bank robber is the same as Captain America's motivation of just being a good boy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
It's
that
very
is your,
stock
yeah,
villain
there you
motivation.
go. Here you go.
That's why they needed Alan
And
Rickman.
that's, to be
carry
fair,
Yeah.
it's about John McClane. It's about John McClane persevering through the
vents.
struggle that he, yeah. I know what it feels to be like a microwave dinner or something, he says. I don't know.
No, the line is, no, I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Oh, that's right. That's
Right,
right.
right.
That's right.
Right.
That's a whole
Hannibal
lot of
Lecter.
shit. Hannibal Lecter.
I think I'll give it to Hannibal Lecter. I think I like Hans Gruber better,
I-
but in terms of motivation, it goes to
I'll watch
Hannibal.
Die Hard 3 times in a day. I'll watch Silence of the Lambs 1 time a week.
I
Wow,
want,
okay. Those are some odd numbers you're
sorry.
putting up.
I want to give it to Die Hard, but I know it's not because of the character. I think it's because of Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
Okay, next matchup, we have number 4, Norman Bates, as played by Anthony Perkins in Psycho, versus Negan, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan in The Walking
I'm gonna
Dead.
need some help with that guy.
I have seen neither of these characters.
What?
You never seen Psycho?
No, I've never
Wait,
seen
is this
Psycho.
the original Psycho or
Yes.
the remake? Okay, thank God.
The remake is Vince Vaughn.
Yep.
All right.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
It's not as bad as you might think, but it's not great.
No. God, I love Psycho.
I don't think...
I feel like him playing. I'm sorry. I feel like Vince Vaughn playing the role, but also you know that he is the guy who was in Wedding Crashers and Dodgeball,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
true underdog story. Like you're like,
Said the whole title.
the whole time.
Well, he's a film buff, a Kino critic.
that being said, I haven't seen Psycho.
Okay.
I want to give Gus Van Sant the benefit of the doubt with his Psycho remake. I think he did a shot-for-shot, word-for-word remake of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
It's one of those movies that people were like, but why though, if you're just going to redo the whole thing?
And when people asked him that, he's like, so nobody else would do it. And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. His reasoning was that making a shot-for-shot, word-for-word remake of a movie of a good movie does not mean the remake will also be good.
Yeah.
I think people are like, Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates. I think Gus Van Sant wanted you to think that exact same thing. It's like, yeah, you can't just slot out Anthony Perkins with Vince Vaughn and have him say the exact same lines and do the exact same actions, and it'll be a similar quality product.
The fact that a studio gave me a budget for this film, and I'm not Alfred Hitchcock, That shouldn't have happened.
I like to believe that it is just an entire movie of him trolling the studio.
Somebody help me with Negan.
I haven't seen Walking Dead, but I've seen plenty of YouTube shorts.
Oh, right, of course.
Is this the baseball guy?
The guy with the baseball bat.
He's a very charismatic character, and he definitely gets the audience angry at him in like this very first episode he's in because he kills a very major character in like 2. 1 in like his very first scene.
Yeah.
He kills 2 in that scene.
So it's in his first of all, he controls the scenes. Every scene he's in, he is in control of it until he's finally out of it. But the end of the episode, when he's taking his dues, the episode ends from a first-person perspective, a dude getting fucking walloped with a bat.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know who that character is. The next episode starts with that same scene, and you see who the character is, and it's one of the lesser main characters, somebody who just came on like a season or so before. It's the guy who had the red handlebar mustache. But maybe 5 minutes later, he's like, you guys didn't care enough. And then takes out the Asian kid.
Glenn.
Yep.
Who was like a fan favorite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very important character.
Okay, so Negan.
I think Glenn was in one of the games.
He was.
He was in The Walking Dead. It's Telltale Games.
So Negan is a writing tool of fuck the audience.
You think so?
That does feel very meta.
Yeah, no. Because they were like, here's this character nobody likes. We're going to kill him because now we have shown that people can die in this scenario. Okay? Now we're going to go after a fan favorite just to be like,
this is what you get for not appreciating what we're doing here.
Exactly.
Because when a character gets killed off in such a brutal and gruesome way, the audience shouldn't be like, oh, thank God it was him, and not somebody I cared about.
Oh, all right.
Oh, you liked Handlebar Mustache Guy?
Yeah. No, I'm saying like, if I was the audience and we're like, I liked him, I thought he was funny, but I was like, oh.
Of everybody to die.
That sucks.
Glenn! No! So why did he kill these people?
So he gets introduced in like season 7 or season 8. Negan kind of feels like this is what's the main guy's name?
Coral?
His dad.
That's his kid.
Rick.
Yeah, Rick Grimes. He feels like the stand-in for if Rick Grimes chose to go the more savage route.
Okay.
He
Dark reflection.
He took exactly.
Okay.
He
If
took
Rick chose
control of this
violence.
community. He brought it to prosper.
I feel like it's
But
pretty
then
violent.
they maintain power through violence instead of this community that's just trying to survive with farming and keeping to themselves, helping everybody else.
Okay.
He shows up because one of the people in Rick's community snapped and just took out one of his patrols that they thought were threatening their community. He doesn't stand for that. So he rides in. He has 1,000 times more gunpowder than this community does. He has still working vehicles somehow when we're like 2 decades into the
Damn.
fucking
The gas does expire.
Mm-hmm.
like that is ultimately he has the
they're
same
diesels.
motivation as
Have to
Rick
be.
Grimes, except it starts to turn more into an ego and a god complex. He is the leader. You do not question him. He will make sure these people survive as long as they stay loyal to him.
It reminds me of a Griffith, of like, this is mine.
And that's pretty much that's what it turns into. That's like once you start to learn who he is, like that's ultimately this is his world.
It is interesting that that's a very constant theme with a lot of villains, them establishing us and them.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite parts. This has nothing to do with anything. It's one of my favorite parts of The Last of Us is you can see, especially in the second game, in real time, you can see Ellie's compartmentalization, where like you pick up some note and it's like next to a corpse of a soldier, and I don't know what it says, but she remarks on it being like, just more assholes fighting other assholes. What else is new? And you just see that and you're like, that's how she can get like
That's how she makes it okay.
Makes it okay in her head that she's killing people.
That's hilarious to me because all I've ever seen of The Last of Us 2 is just these sequences in like YouTube shorts of Ellie going on absolute rampages.
Anyway, this isn't about Ellie.
Surely, maybe I just want to this. Surely, the creators of the game understood that every time Ellie kills somebody, that is her inflicting exactly what happened to her on somebody else.
I mean, that's the whole theme of the game to me. Regardless, with Psycho, I think that the whole thing's in the title. He is not well. He's an unwell man. If you'll let me, I think the creators might disagree with me on this, but it's hard not to see the parallels. He's a little bit of an Ed Gein. Real life Ed Gein loved his mama. Oh, but she abused him. Really loved his mama, though. So much that he dug up corpses and wore a pussy because he just loved his mama so much. And his whole room was a hellscape. His whole house was a hellscape, but her room was immaculate. And it's so sad to think about that poor man who definitely killed people. At least one person, for sure. Probably two. He probably killed his brother. Regardless, I think it's safe a little bit to put a bit of Ed Gein on Norman Bates. Because Norman Bates really loved his mama. He really loved his mama. So much he wanted to be his mama. And his mama wasn't there anymore, John.
But boy, did she abuse him.
They were abusive to him. Poor Norman.
That being said, he did kill people.
He definitely killed at least one person. Probably more. Probably killed his brother too.
So
in the womb, though.
Yeah. Ate him. Gained his strength.
So how I always viewed Psycho, right, is that due to all this abuse that he received from his parental figure growing up, he developed an alternate personality of her, kind of like his idolized version of her. So, like, after, like, mistreating him, right, he can just be in his room, and then good mama comes out and is like, oh, is nurturing. So, there are two motivations with the Norman Bates character. The first one is from the Norman perspective, which is to protect mom. And the other one is from the alternate mom perspective, which is to protect little Norman. So, at any point when there is a thought of being towards one or the other one goes into kill mode. So, this floozy's going to take my son away and hurt him.
Not to be too meta about this, what are the other two criteria?
Matchup with Hero and Riz.
Oh, okay.
Riz is number 2, and then you get the Hero versus. Okay.
I don't know. Not to get too meta, I don't know how we could talk about he doesn't win Riz. Are you kidding me? And his matchup with the Hero is he just kills her in the shadow.
He's a Riz black hole.
Yeah.
Remember, Riz can also be like
screen presence.
It's screen
presence.
Yeah.
At the end there, when he's just like,
how well do they command a scene?
They wouldn't throw me. They wouldn't hurt little old me. I wouldn't even hurt a fly. And he's just sitting there, all like menacingly.
Mm-hmm. And he looks like right at the camera and just smiles that wicked smile. Ooh,
I love it.
He's got to get to the next round though.
What you were just saying was very compelling to me. Not what you were just saying. The whole mom wants to protect Norman wants to protect mom.
Yeah.
I was sitting over here trying to figure out what his motivations are. And maybe it's because I am conditioned to, especially, it's interesting that 4 out of the 8 characters in just this part of the bracket are villains with mental illnesses.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it goes back to what I said about Hannibal Lecter, kind of using that mental illness as a crutch to push the character's thoughts and actions and motivations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that you contextualized it in the way you did, Chris, because yes, his mental illness absolutely drives his motivation, but those motivations are still interesting.
Yeah, you applied a logic to his delusion, which I'm a fan of. That being said, I'm not sure I find it more compelling than
Negan.
I love Psycho, I love horror movies. I hate Walking Dead. Truly.
Yeah.
I will share that, like, I was also season 8, dude. Season 7, season 8. I was binge watching the show because somebody told me it gets good. It's good, it stops being good, and then it gets good again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, here we go. And then you have the group outside of the city, you have the farm, then you have the prison, and every single one is a rinse and repeat. You find somebody that causes problems, your place gets overrun, people die, and you leave. You go to a new place, you meet new people, you find somebody that causes problems, your people die, and you leave. Rinse and repeat and repeat and repeat.
How have they not figured it out by now?
And then like, I was done. And the first time you run into Negan's group, you don't even hear anything about the dude. You just know, like, oh, these guys aren't related to anything that was going on. That's weird. And then, like, he comes in, and I, like, as soon as he came in, I was like, back upright. I'm just, like, watching. He has this baseball bat with all the nails in it. He has this fucking crooked smile. And I'm like, this is the most fleshed out character I've seen in a minute. Hold on a second.
Hold on a second. Is this, like, a guy? Hold on a second.
Whoa.
Is the show flirting with not being bad anymore?
See, you were saying, like...
He's got a big stick.
You get, like, oh, season 8. For me, I'm literally the guy who watched the first episode, and I'm like, oh, wow, that was, like, a good little film, basically. That was nice. Oh, the second... Okay, this sucks dick.
I think I made it through the first 2 seasons. I didn't feel compelled to continue.
I was ready to turn it off, and they told me, like, just get to Negan.
Yeah.
And I got to Negan, and, like, I got through most of Negan, and then I saw where it was falling back into its trope, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm done now. I'm not watching the rest of this. I looked it up, I saw that he ends up getting got, and I'm like, okay, we're done with it.
Okay.
But with the reflection part, he did push Rick Grimes to become, like, the worst side of himself.
And I do love those. Was that his motivation to, like, make Rick that?
I think, maybe not at first, but I think it most likely grew to that, knowing that this leader of another community, who they held up to a similar standard that Negan was held up to, was like, oh, I want to break this man.
I'm putting my own thing on this. I don't know if this is in text in the show, but I do like the idea that Negan wants him to be on his level, because then it's not just him. Then I'm not just the horrible asshole.
Even with that actually makes a lot more sense, because
the world is
a lot of the times that Negan had Rick by the balls and was just like, it's
literally
done. Not metaphorically.
I watched that.
But like had him surrounded, had his group ready to just be toasted. He was like, I'm just gonna take this away from you. Go back home, kid.
Yeah.
Like, he's allowing him to live probably for that exact reason, was to push him to that level.
I think what would make an even more interesting villain would be almost the exact opposite of what you said, Scott, where it's not even like he's trying to do it. He's just such a force of nature that he brings that out of other people unconsciously.
Like Frieza did to Goku.
Yeah. I mean, Frieza doesn't care at all.
Maybe Frieza should have won.
I think
I'm gonna give it to Negan.
Yeah, I'll give it to him.
I'm gonna lean towards Norman Bates.
He should have.
I want Norman.
Ah, fuck. I'm also going Negan.
Yeah.
Okay. Negan wins.
I was hoping we had serial killer versus serial killer in the next round.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, dude. Negan, he might as well be just.
Unfortunately, Norman Bates. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way Norman takes that one.
No.
Fair.
He doesn't.
Now, what funny name am I going to put in the brackets for this character?
At least Anthony Hopkins has Riz. He
Ginger.
can bring to Hannibal Lecter.
Okay.
I agree.
Interesting matchup here.
Fuck 'em.
Very interesting.
We might get some media illiterate people upset that we've got a character in the villains bracket here.
I'm going to be upset. I'm media illiterate.
You know, the great thing about me having awful memory is I don't even remember who these people are yet.
We have number 3, Walter White, as played by Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad, versus number 6, Gollum, played by Andy Serkis in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yes.
Is it only Lord of the Rings? I'm going to say this. The best scenes in the Hobbit trilogy is the Gollum scenes.
The riddles in the dark?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Is that still?
Also
it's Andy
voiced by-
Serkis.
I'd say sure.
Okay.
I'd count it.
Great.
He's the same character.
I almost said Anthony Kiedis.
That's part of the reason why that's so, I think, this is me being cynical. Part of the reason that those scenes are so good is because it's just like, oh yeah, Lord of the Rings. Because it's just more Gollum. It's so, he's fully realized and Andy is just chewing it up. He knows what he's doing. Regardless, Walter. I could talk about Walter White, his motivation, and we're just going to get to the core of it, because I'm not going to go through his whole fucking story. He wants to...
Are you sure? We've been doing that with literally every other character.
He wants to...
I think we've done this character now.
Go ahead. Yeah.
He wants to be the best at the thing he's the best at.
I feel like his motivation can genuinely be summed up for every single scene in the show as he feels inadequate.
Yeah, like, he knows, like, he says it in, I think, the first season, where I'm a science teacher at a high school that I am so desperately overqualified for. And you're asking me why I might go into want to run away from my wife and just get a break. And he's layering truth on top of a lie to cover up his fugue state.
Yeah.
That he went into, when in reality he was kidnapped by a drug dealer. And it's just so perfect for what his character is, I feel like. He just inadequate.
That's why he keeps coming back.
Yeah. Because he knows he's good at it. And it's like that first... And not only that, he's getting recognition. People are buying that shit up because he makes the best meth.
He is Heisenberg, and when he sees somebody recognize that name and back the fuck off, he's like, I finally have what I'm looking for.
You're goddamn right.
You're goddamn right.
So, okay. I think I just realized his motivation is to prove to himself that he is who he thinks he is.
I don't know if it's to prove to himself. I feel like maybe that implies to me that there's some underlying thing that he doesn't know if he is good enough, but I never got that vibe from him.
See, I think it's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I think that there is a deep underlying resentment that he is not as successful as he thinks he should be.
Especially in comparison to, like, he was a part of this company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gray Matter, whatever it is. And his best friend in college, his at the time girlfriend in college, and it wasn't expressed. Oh, no, they were in a relationship. Regardless, they were together. And one time he sees his best friend and his girlfriend flirting or something. Maybe they weren't in a relationship. Regardless, he just books it. And he was a core member of this triumvirate that founded the company. And he has seen no success from it, even though he is the reason he is a pinnacle reason why they are so successful now.
Mm-hmm. Is that according to him?
According to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he confronts her, and it's such a good scene where he's just like, yo, fuck you. And she's like, and stands up and runs away. But he's confronting her because again, there's so many levels because it's a TV show. There's a lot of episodes. He is saying to his wife that the way he is paying for his cancer treatment is he took a deal with his two old friends who are now billionaires because of his work. That's so he says. And she's she contacts the wife, one of his friends, and is like, she goes with a lie. And she's like, yeah, I did that. And then calls up Walt and is like, Walt, we need to talk. And him and her have this conversation, and he's like, how about you stay the fuck out of my business? Go fuck yourself. You were the reason I'm in this scenario, type of thing. And I get the impression she doesn't even get it. She doesn't even get that he sees what they did as a massive betrayal. He disappeared on them.
I'm trying to remember back because this is season 1 stuff, but it seemed like his old business partners didn't have any resentment towards him.
Absolutely not.
It seemed like they wanted to remain good friends, and it's Walt that is angry at them and is driving this wedge between him. It seemed like the other guy wanted to like mend fences.
It's Walt and his pride, like an overwhelming pride that he didn't want to tell anybody about the cancer diagnosis because he knew this was going to fucking happen. And the guy offers Walt a job and starts hinting like, we have the best medical care. And Walt's like, she told you, didn't she? Implying that his wife had told him about the cancer diagnosis. And of course, that is what happened. And Walt was going to take the job. It's just his pride got in the way. He doesn't want to be handed this position at a company because the insurance is good. And he doesn't, and his friend doesn't want him to die. What a fucking asshole.
Like I said, every single thing about Walt comes back to he is insecure. And he will do anything and everything to prove to himself that he is not. And he fails every single time.
I don't know, man.
What I love is that people like a good hero. People love a good villain. And so it's great that Walter White is on this list because it's just a series that we can watch a villain
self-destruct, essentially.
Even from the few episodes I watched, I need to finish it.
Everyone's the protagenist of their own story. That doesn't make them not the villain of the story.
And there's so many times throughout the story where he could just stop.
Yeah.
He has the money. Nobody knows what's going on. The only ramification would be, hey, people stop dying and ODing on your meth. You just walk away. You have millions of dollars.
This to me is a man who knew that he was capable of success, but never got to taste it until he finally did.
And he did not want to let go.
Yeah, he just gorged on it.
It's that final confession where he's like, I did it because I was good at it, and I wanted to do it. I wanted to keep doing it.
When he's talking to his wife and she's like, don't lie to me, or whatever.
Yeah, give me some other platitude about bullshit that you're like, oh, you did it for your family. And he's like, I did it for me. And it's so cathartic.
It reminds me a lot of speedrunning, where you'd think, why would somebody cheat at speedrunning, especially like top tier players, people who could absolutely set a world record? It's because they get it in their heads. Their ego gets ahead of their brain, where they're like, I deserve it.
I could have done this, but I just haven't been lucky enough.
It's like, I'm good enough. Yeah. I deserve to be the best. So why not have the record?
It's also so crazy that like when they first start doing it, and then like they finally hit like a top, like a top 50. They get top 50 in the world. They're like, oh hell yeah, dude, this is I fucking did this. But then that stops being good enough.
You're right. And then Walter White was speedrunning a meth empire.
He did.
It kind of did.
He did. It took like a year.
Yeah.
God. Who's the other guy?
Gollum.
God damn it.
Gollum's motivation is, I think, my precious.
It is.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's very simple.
Wow, this is like... But he is so different than every villain we've talked about so far.
It's very simple, but it's very complex.
Yeah, because you just like to watch Gollum be Gollum, and how he's gonna scheme, and how's he gonna try to get over.
He got that riz.
At the end of the day,
that riz.
Gollum's entire motivation comes from the ring.
Yeah. Should we be pedantic and not include Smeagol?
No, because Smeagol's in there too.
All right.
Smeagol is another aspect of Gollum. Smeagol is the one.
Well, I would say Gollum is an aspect of Smeagol.
Yes.
I would think by the time we meet them, they are equal. Well, maybe not even equal parts. I don't know which is the aspect of the other.
And this is Andy Serkis, not the video game.
Right.
Not the video game Gollum. Yeah. Which, I mean, to be fair, it's not bad. The game's horrible, but the story's not bad at all.
But like that, the absolute need to have the ring. When even the ring doesn't want Gollum, it just wants it just sees a valuable
It wants to
tool.
get rid of him.
It does.
I don't even know if it wants to get rid of him. It
wants to move on.
It's used him. Yeah.
Right.
Because
it made that clear when it went to Bilbo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is the ring is trying to get back to Sauron.
Right.
And Gollum is so enamored with the ring that compulsion just isn't there for him. He just wants it for himself.
It's interesting that there's that dichotomy. It's like a push and pull where the ring, maybe the ring should be the bad guy.
The ring is the bad guy.
When Gollum showed up again in Lord of the Rings, do you think the ring was like, Oh, fuck, Frodo, don't talk to him. That's my ex.
Hold
That's my ex.
on.
Well, see, here's the thing.
Oh, my bad.
This is actually a fun bit. So you remember when Gollum swears on the ring that he will get Frodo to Mordor and will not, essentially
I was gonna bring that up.
protect themselves from
Smeagol, like, started to push away Gollum.
I see that as well. I think Smeagol could have won in that bastard Sam mistreated Gollum
Yeah.
But
in the movie.
the only because Frodo couldn't destroy the ring. Frodo would never have given up the ring, even there. The thing is, at that step, that last little precipice in Mount Doom, the ring is at its most powerful. Literally no one on Middle Earth could have dropped that ring in the lava. And it takes Smeagol breaking his promise to have Eru Ilúvatar step in and literally Deus Ex Machina.
This is some real Silmarillion, literal Deus Ex Machina stuff.
It's basically the creator of Middle Earth steps in.
Fuck all that. We're talking about Smeagol and Gollum, because all of a sudden, if you start pulling that in, guess what? This was not the character's choices and decisions that were made. This was God saying, "Hey, you got railroaded."
Well,
yeah,
it's because Smeagol broke his promise, though.
Maybe. I do know in the lore that promises and oaths are like supernaturally binding in the world of Middle Earth.
And then to swear on the ring itself, the ring of power, that you will do something and then go back on it when the ring is at its most powerful.
And Frodo says the ring is treacherous. It'll bind you to your word.
Right.
Yeah, it's difficult including that because it's not apparent
in text in the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not really even in text in the book either.
Right. Still.
In the book, he just slips. He's dancing around and he slips. Frodo doesn't push him.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so sad. The movie scene did it so much more justice.
That's why that it gets called out in like later texts. It's like that was intentional.
And as he's falling into that in the movie, as he's falling into the volcano, I just get the overwhelming sense that he's happy. He's finally
right up until when he hits
precious.
the lava. That's when he realized the ring betrayed him.
Yeah,
that's why his face changes.
Well, even then, even though he thinks it's betrayed him,
he still tries to protect it.
It's the last thing he does is to keep it out of the lava. Those movies are just so fucking good.
So, that being said, my precious, that's his motivation. It's simple, but I don't find it any less compelling. This is going to be actually a tough one. I love Walter White. I love Gollum.
Yeah. And, well, like I said, it's simple, but it's complex because I don't think Gollum wants to want the ring.
Yeah, it's like he knows, it's almost like an addiction for him, and he knows it's bad for him.
Like Dalinar in the Thrill.
He
or all those people Walter White sells to.
That's why it's so
that's very very good.
That's why it's so compelling when he's with Frodo and Sam, because you can see that very small part of him that's like, I can get away from this. I don't just
on an addict.
I don't just need the precious. I can have all the things I forgot about.
We just broke this down into a battle between the dealer and the addict.
I was just about to say that you saying he's an addict. I think with that being said, if with those two, addict and dealer, I feel like the evils and motivation of a dealer is more interesting to me than the evils and motivation of an addict.
Yeah. I don't need it.
I'm just thinking about that one scene in Two Towers that should have earned Andy Serkis an Oscar, where Gollum is arguing with Smeagol at night.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
It is a crime. I've talked about this before. The reason the third one got Best Picture is because the first two didn't.
Right.
I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's the weakest of the three.
I don't know.
Number two?
We don't have to
I'd give it to number two.
We don't have to get into it right now, but we could talk about that for another half hour.
This is not the movie bracket. This is
Sauron originally was like number 5 in the movies.
Yeah.
He was gonna be the Gollum spot, but then Gollum was number 6. And
Sauron is so much more interesting outside of Lord of the
Rings. That's what I was gonna I took him off of the list because I was like, he seems like there's a lot to him. But if we're just looking at the movies,
Yeah.
And that's like what I was looking at, was trying to find. I'm
You
like,
could
you
take
get nothing from
Sauron
that.
out and put him in a D&D campaign.
You
Oh
really
yeah,
could.
and you could. He was the hero of some parts of a D&D campaign, but we didn't see those parts.
Well, and also, if we look at like Sauron's entire story, he is such a wuss.
He is.
He gets beaten over and over and over again. He's such a pushover in the Silmarillion. Yeah. The only reason anybody cares about him is because he was boyfriends with actual big bad Morgoth.
And not a lot of people know this, which is surprising to me. The eye, that's a movie thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they make references to it, but it's not
all
like
kind of couched in metaphor.
Yeah.
Right.
That it's an all-watching
Yeah,
eye,
yeah.
or an eye wreathed in flame. It's not literally a giant eyeball on top of a tower.
But it's really cool.
It is a very
it,
cool
it was a
visual.
thing. Like it was a cut scene. He was supposed to walk out of the Black Gate.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
You remember
they
that
were gonna do.
cutscene from the cut scene of with the mouth of Sauron in the director's cut?
Yeah.
I love that guy. He's
So
so
good.
weird.
He talk about on-screen presence and
Yeah.
Riz.
Yeah, hell
He
yeah.
commanded that scene.
He was also my favorite character in that really shitty League of Legends ripoff game of Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Smite?
No. It was like
Oh.
it's Lord of the Rings ripoff of League of Legends thing. It was
Oh.
They did a
total dog shit.
Okay.
But he was my favorite character.
Heroes of Middle Earth.
It might have been called something like
I
that,
don't know.
literally.
Again,
I think I'm
another...
gonna give it to Walter White here, guys.
I feel like this is so fucking close.
Yeah, it is.
But I think I want to give it to Smeagol / Gollum.
I don't know.
I think I'm going to give it to Gollum as well.
This might be the most exciting bout that we've had, though.
This is.
I
don't know.
I like how conflicted Gollum is. Gandalf says it in the first movie. He hates and loves the ring, and he can never be rid of it.
As he hates and loves himself.
Yeah, that's the rest of the scene.
He can never. And
It's like he knows how terrible of a person he is. He understands all the terrible things he's done, and despite all of that self-awareness, he still can't satiate his lust for the ring.
and
There's something noble too, then, with that idea in mind of him he want to just stay in that cave forever.
Mm-hmm.
If he can't do any bad in a cave,
That's interesting. I never really thought about that in
the
like, subtext.
very small little pieces of Smeagol that were left over, that were still just the Hobbit wanting to fish on the river. Just
Yeah.
like, if we just go away, we can never do it. We
Man.
can just equal
Also,
to anyone
That
else.
scene where he eats a fish, huh?
Also,
Disgusting.
also the riddles in the dark. Despite after 500 years, he's
Yeah.
still willing to play games with Bilbo, and he still remembers the riddles. He's not learning those riddles from goblins in the Misty
Yeah.
Mountains. That's still a part of him deep down.
Yeah.
He's still got it. He's still got that dog in him.
what are you thinking, Chris?
Okay.
Kyle?
I think Cody just convinced me. I think we'll go with Gollum for this.
Gollum wins.
Then I'll give it to Walter.
Walter.
Wow.
Walter deserves
You
this one,
and
though.
your pride and your
I really did not want to be the tiebreaker. I would have started flipping coins.
This honestly might have been our most interesting argument.
Yeah.
Like,
I love the
sucks in this
idea
round
that
one.
you brought up.
yeah.
Well, at the very
That's
least, you brought up the
interesting.
addict thing, and that put us on the idea of addict versus dealer, like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah,
I love
that's-
that idea.
Because, well, see, even Walter's an addict.
He's an addict to the game,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so to speak.
All right. Smegmol wins.
Smegmol.
I mean, let's face
Small
it.
girl.
Smegma balls.
Smegmol's also a bit of a dealer, dealing rings to hobbits.
Wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any
I
sense.
feel like
The only thing
no.
is, the supply that was meant for him, he
The
accidentally
Hobbit.
gave away.
The Hobbit was a dirty thief.
Even seconds?
Oh,
Sorry,
right.
the Hobbit's
Trixie.
What's in my pocket?
Also, Bilbo, go fuck yourself. Are you
Oh,
kidding me? What is in my pocket?
What have you been like?
Shit, that's a tough one.
He's like, what the fuck is that? What do you mean?
That's not a riddle.
Your hand. It's your hand.
No.
No.
What else?
No.
What was it? What's in my pocket now? Oh, I don't fucking know, man.
Fish bones?
Is it a fish? Yeah.
Just
Cheating!
I agree. Bilbo should have died.
What I love about that,
leaving.
this isn't related to the rest of the podcast, and so I might cut it right now. All right. Final matchup for TVs and movies. This is a good one, guys. 2 great names. We got number 2, Hans Landa, played by Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Basterds.
Fucking love that movie.
Number 7, Anton Chigurh, played by Javier Bardem.
I don't think that's how you pronounce it.
It's French, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And No Country for Old Men.
I can talk about both these motherfuckers.
Go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and sit back and take notes.
You've never seen Inglourious Basterds?
I've never seen either of these.
You need to watch Inglourious Basterds.
I
can understand not watching No Country for Old Men. It's like tough.
Yeah.
But Inglourious Basterds is great. It's just peak.
Let's be clear.
I say peak.
Let's be clear. Hans Landa carries Inglourious Basterds.
Absolutely.
That's the only reason people will watch it.
I watch it because I want to see Nazis getting blown up, dude.
Yeah. Brad Pitt makes that movie.
I think Michael
Agree to disagree.
Fassbender makes that.
I think the last time we did this, you also said, "Do you need to watch that movie?"
Yeah.
And it's been a year.
I've not watched No Country for Old Men, so please go with that
I've
first.
only seen pieces of it,
So-
so start with that.
I've never read the book, unfortunately. I'd like to.
That could be our next book club.
My
After we're done
read
with,
on Anton Chigurh is like he is a force of nature. He
That's
might as well
exactly-
be death.
Yeah. That's
Everyone
exactly
who
how I put
sees
it.
him dies. There's even that accountant that, like, he's been hired by this private agency to kill the guy, the main character in No Country for Old Men. I see he's the main character. The guy who stole the money.
Moss. Llewellyn Moss, I believe.
He didn't even steal the money. He found the money and then left with it. And he's been hired by this company to go get the money back and kill the guy who took it. Well, an accountant that works for that, I think he's an accountant, works for them, and he's the only person in the movie that straight up looks at Anton Chigurh and Anton doesn't kill. And I think this is subtext. I think he absolutely is going to go back and kill that accountant. Like, there's no way that accountant's getting out of that scenario. There's even a line that I can't remember at the time. Regardless, his motivation is to, I guess,
He just likes killing people.
he does. I don't know if
even know if
likes
he
it,
does.
but
He definitely looks like he's enjoying
he's really
it.
fucking good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a force of nature to me. His goal, his motivation, I guess, is to carry out the duty he's been hired to do. I don't even know if it's about honor. I don't know if it's about
Money?
I don't know. I think that's part of the point.
He doesn't even really have a backstory or a past.
I remember this is so long ago, so I
he
might be
exists
misremembering
outside
this.
of time.
The author, I believe, said he didn't even attach like a nationality to him. He just liked the way the name Anton Chigurh sounded.
Yeah.
It's not implying that he's from a certain part of the world or anything.
So is he like the personification of the phrase "I have become death"?
It's I am become death. Wow. I don't know.
That feels too formal and grandiose.
Yeah.
It just, and maybe we're making him out to be more grandiose than he is. He's just a guy that kills people.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because it has all of these questions, and Anton and the movie have no interest in answering any of these questions.
So much of him is subtext, in my head at least. Like, the fact that he's using the pneumatic thing.
It's a bolt gun.
The fact that he's
cattle.
Exactly. It makes me think like he doesn't even view these people as people.
It's literally
It's a way of dehumanizing
No,
the people he kills.
Yeah, he just walks up. He just on the side of the road. Some dude had a flat tire. He just walked up to this dude and just held a bolt gun to his forehead and killed him.
Huh.
And like took the car.
This guy had no idea what was going on, had no idea what it was. He was so confused through the entire scene. And Anton just has this very slight grin on his face. Like he's getting off on this guy having no idea he's about to get his head punched in.
I think that is a tool of the author rather than the character, though.
Right.
I don't think Anton even conceptualizes that
What he's doing to that?
Well, the fact that he's using a bolt gun to kill people.
Exactly.
I think it's a message by the author that this guy is just slaughtering them like cattle. I don't even think Anton thinks of it that deeply. I think he just sees it as a weapon.
His most this again, my opinion. His most characterful scene is the gas station attendant.
Yeah.
When he walks up and he's like, call it. And Javier Bardem is so good in this. And like they gave him weird hair because they just wanted him to look fucking weird because the Coen brothers are geniuses, and it worked.
It's mentioned that he has an odd haircut in the book as well.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But
it doesn't say exactly what his hair looks like. It doesn't really even describe his physical appearance. It's It's mentioned that he has an odd haircut.
Weirdly enough, I know there's one line that gets called out all the time, which is, how much have you ever lost on a coin flip?
Yeah.
I've never even seen that line.
I could watch that scene with the gas station attendant and like get a different read on it every time.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. He's that kind of character. Like, it's somewhat similar to, not really, but it's somewhat similar to how, the main female protagonist in a romance is a blank slate.
Mm-hmm.
He is a blank slate of pure evil.
Yeah.
You can put whatever evil you want on him, and he's gonna deliver.
And what's interesting is this is directly related to our conversation of his motivations. Is what was his motivations during that scene? Did he want to kill the guy? Did he not want to kill the guy? Was he just toying with him like a puppet? Or did he? I have no clue. There's a dozen other possible explanations for what he was doing in that scene. Why is the scene even there? The problem is so this is screenwriting. Okay, screenwriting. If a scene isn't progressing the plot, it should be developing the characters. And the scene is absolutely not progressing the plot, really. But it's also not developing the character.
It's making
if
you
it is,
ask,
I don't know how.
Exactly. It's making me ask so many questions that do not get answered.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a fault of, I don't consider it a fault because it's such a fucking good scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, like...
And like, when you see, I think it's Woody Harrelson just walking up the stairs, and you just see over his shoulder, and he just leans in and starts walking up the stairs behind me, like, God, no. What a horrible thing is he about to do? Not that Woody Harrelson didn't deserve it in the movie. Regardless, with Hans, it's interesting foil here. To me, Hans has always been like the embodiment of every cruel efficiency, every hate-filled thought that any Nazi has ever had. He is peak Nazi.
Pure, distilled, which 100 proof.
It's interesting because even he changes throughout that, but that never leaves.
Yeah.
He just swings on the spectrum. Because at the very beginning, he is the Jew hunter. Yeah. He loves hunting down and killing people. And after, 5 years, he is sick and fed up with it, and he just wants to be better than that. But where are you gonna go from there? And he still kind of enjoys toying with people. He just doesn't want to be the Jew hunter anymore. He wants to be recognized for more.
And I don't even think, maybe, I don't know. I don't even see it as like, man, I don't want to kill people anymore.
Because he certainly does.
I'm bored of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bored of this, and I don't want to be this guy who, like, I have aspirations. I can
take my talents to South Beach, so to speak. I could be so much more than this.
Man, it says a lot if you vote for him, huh?
He's also very... Well... he's also very commanding of... both of these people are very commanding in scenes.
For different reasons.
I've not seen No Country for Old Men, but how you're describing it, he just, controls the environment he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hans... is the environment that he's in. A good example of what I'm trying to say here is when he's eating crepes with that lady, right? And they're just at the table and she's freaking out and he is loving every minute of it. And he's and she goes and he's like, you have to wait for the cream. And you're just this is terrifying.
Because it's how much does he know? Is he toying with her? Is he just being nice? Is he
sussing her out?
It reminds me of how they filmed American Psycho, where they filmed every scene with Willem Dafoe's character 3 times. One where he didn't know Patrick was the killer, one where he assumed he was, and one where he absolutely knew Patrick is the killer. And then they would just use a random take at every point in the movie. So you didn't know what Willem Dafoe knew.
Yeah.
That scene, of course, I think it's arguably the best scene in the whole film, and it's right at the beginning of Inglourious Basterds, when he sits down the guy in that, and it's just...
The little French farmer dude.
It's because... what's his fucking name? The director?
Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino is a genius at writing dialogue. Making 2 people talk, this is just me, maybe, I don't know, but I would watch 2 people have a conversation in a Quentin Tarantino movie over watching Uma Thurman kick somebody's ass 100 times over. Because it's just it feels like I'm watching there's something uncanny almost about how real it feels.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, but much more compelling because you understand what's going into the conversation. It's still a fight going on. That first scene with the farmer.
That's a good way of putting it.
It is a fight. It's just a battle of words and knowledge and willpower.
And it's one the farmer is woefully unequipped.
Yeah, he is woefully unequipped to handle this.
Han's words are nukes, and everyone else has arrows.
Sort of. I don't know if I go that far, but
Hey, dude, one arrow could take out the guy who hits the button that's launching the nuke. All I'm saying, all right?
Yeah, just that scene, I feel like that scene primes you for the rest of the movie, because you think, oh, these runaways, they're trying to they're literally running away from the worst bad guys of all time. So you're rooting for him, you're hoping this farmer is gonna be able to play it cool, and then Hans Landa shows up, and he starts talking with him, and they're going back and forth, and you're like, does he know? Does he not know? I don't think he knows. And then he's just like, they're under the floorboard, and you're like, oh, he knew the entire time.
Also just brilliant acting from even the farmer guy, who I don't even know who the fuck that was.
Yeah, and he just, he says that, he's like, they're under the floorboards, and he starts crying.
which was, and even right before that, he's like, they don't know English, do they? And the farmer just shook his head, and then he said, in English, they're under the floorboards. And you're just like, holy shit, he knew where they were the whole time. He's just fucking with this guy.
Unfortunately, I think the Nazi's gonna win it for me, because I think we've said all we can about Anton Chigurh.
Didn't you just say that if you vote for this guy?
I meant specifically him.
Oh.
The Warhammer guy, and...
Oh,
yeah.
In any other qualification, I think Anton Chigurh has a great chance. But in terms of actual motivation, there's just not a whole lot there.
Great scene immediately following the scene with the farmer. After the farmer gives him up and the girl runs away. Hans absolutely could have shot her.
Yeah.
He could have killed her right then and there, but it proves his motivation right up until the later scenes of the movie where he's not doing this because, he wants to kill them. He enjoys the hunt more than anything.
One last thing about Anton Chigurh, more about the movie, because I fucking love No Country for Old Men. I feel like the only character who absorbs what Anton Chigurh is throughout the whole movie is Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
He just gets it. He's like, it doesn't matter how courageous and brave I am. I'm not getting it. If I get in the way of that force of nature, I'm not walking out.
Yeah.
And so he walks away.
Hans.
Hans.
So I'm guessing it's gonna be Hans. Yeah.
Hans, baby.
Hans.
It seems like what we've just decided is that there is no motivation for a tornado.